and welcome back to Immigration Ain't Easy. I am Mo Goldman, and I am so very grateful to have uh, a brilliant mind joining me today. Her name is Leah Ndimurwimo. Leah Ndimurwimo. Um, I was just telling Leah that I found it funny that in her name, my name pops up two times. M-O and M-O is in there. Um, and she is an associate professor at Nelson Mandela University. And she's currently a visiting Fulbright research scholar at the University of Arizona, and she teaches a variety of subjects, including refugee law. And she's written a book on post-conflict reconciliation and transitional justice. And she uses in that book human rights violations in Burundi as a case study. She's also published numerous peer-reviewed articles as an author and co-author, and focuses on the impact of forced displacement. And her research interests are predominantly about international human rights, humanitarian law, refugee law, and transitional justice in Africa, constitutional law, and labor law. So it's a variety of legal issues, but a majority of them are based and couched around international human rights. And so it's really great, especially now at a time where we're seeing a lot of issues, revolving, and it always is an issue, across the world. But even in our own backyard here in the United States, where there's been issues with the dismantling of the USAID, and concerns about what that means for future migrants who are going to be displaced, the limitations that are being imposed on refugees being able to come to the United States and ask for their asylum or have refugee status. And so I find this to be a very topical issue to speak with you about. So thank you for joining me, Leah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mo, for inviting me to join you. I'm so honored to just talk to you.
So let me ask you, just to start off, where did you grow up, and how did you end up getting into this specific niche of law?
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, I was born and grew up in Tanzania. And I've been curious when I was growing up to know why people run away from their own countries. And that question really bothered me because Tanzania has been hosting refugees and asylum seekers for many years. And Tanzania hosted refugees from Rwanda, from Burundi, from South Africa, from Angola, from Mozambique, from Somalia, from Democratic Republic of Congo, which used to be known as Zaire, and even Uganda, and many more.
All over Africa.
Yes, all over Africa, even beyond Africa. Yes. So now, growing up, seeing that, really, it was a question which no one could answer me. And it was until when I started my tertiary education, when I did my first undergraduate law degree, One of the subjects I was taught was public international law, which had a very little aspect of refugee law. But having said that, because of what was going on, and I just found myself ended up being in South Africa for a number of reasons. And when I was in South Africa, I was so passionate about wanting to practice law as an attorney or an advocate, but it didn't work out because I tried to submit my CVs at different law firms, but they said, yes, we see you qualify, but we cannot admit you to work as a legal practitioner in South Africa since you did your law degree somewhere else, which was not South Africa. So
they give preference to their own, like, South African
yes. By then,
legal graduates.
The then Legal Practice Act it was coined in such a way that it didn't allow people who didn't study law in South Africa to practice. And based on that, I just felt that, okay, since I love law, let me do my master's degree in law. So I did that at the Nelson Mandela University. By that time, it was called Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. And then I did my master's degree in labor law. Yeah, and that's why when you are introducing myself, you did mention about labor law. And even if you look at what I research on, I've got some aspects or some components of labor law. Then it didn't end up there. When I was doing my master's in labor law, that's when I got an opportunity to start teaching at the Nelson Mandela University as a junior lecturer. Then, of course, later on, I was promoted to be a lecturer, especially after my obtaining my master's degree in labor law. And that now motivated me even to want to be an academic, because there was also another personal reason for that, because I'm a married woman, I've got children, and I needed really to be closer to my family. So I think that was also another aspect, although I didn't get to be a legal practitioner, but I just ended up being in academia. Yeah, so after having my master's degree in labor law, still that question, which I had a long time ago, came into my mind. And that what pushed me to want to do a PhD study in public international law, but specializing in violation of human rights. And I used Burundi as a case study. You would wonder, why did I choose Burundi?
That was going to be my next question. Why Burundi? And Burundi, isn't Burundi a very tiny country? Like in the grand scheme of things, like when you look at Africa, it's just a little country in there, right?
Yes, you are
Mm-hmm.
right, Mo. Burundi is a very, very tiny country. Her neighbors are Rwanda, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo. Burundi used, for those who don't know the history of Burundi, Burundi used to be a part of Urundi Rwanda Kingdom before colonialism. And then Rwanda Urundi Kingdom was colonized by Germans. But German rule didn't last for long, especially when Germany was defeated during the First and Second World War. So, but that time when Burundi was still under a German colonial rule, it was part of what used to be known as German East Africa. German East Africa was made up of what we have currently as Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania, by then Tanganyika. So now, after that, when the German were defeated, Burundi became a Belgian colony because it was kind of annexed to the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which used to be, which
Zaire.
was Zaire, which was the Belgian colony.
Mm-hmm.
So now, given that a little background, yes, Burundi is made up of 3 ethnic groups, which are Hutus and Tutsis and Twas. Hutus are made up of 85%, and Tutsis are made up of 4%, and another marginalized ethnic group, which is Twa, is made up of 1%. So you can see, if you have maybe learned about the history of Rwanda, you can see there are similarities in terms of ethnic composition.
Mm-hmm.
And now what drew my attention to Burundi was the fact that many people know or have written a lot about Rwanda, what happened, the Rwandan genocide, and gross violations of human rights in Rwanda, but very, very little has been written about Burundi. And also, going back to what I started off by saying that Tanzania hosted refugees from different countries, including Burundi. And that's also, I think, triggered my mind. And that's why I decided to do a study on Burundi and understand why the issue of Rwanda has been brought to the international community's attention, but the Burundian one, no one who's saying anything. If you go to Rwanda, like the International Criminal Tribunal was established to prosecute the perpetrators of genocide of Rwanda, but nothing which, to date, nothing which has been done for Burundi. So that was my motivation to want to do the study on Burundi, and that's what I did for my PhD at the Northwest University in South Africa.
So when you were doing the research on Burundi, I mean, it looks like you had published numerous, your early studies, numerous articles about what sort of findings you made on different, topics. So, for example, you wrote and published a piece, co-authored, "Rethinking Violence, Reconciliation, and Reconstruction in Burundi." And you wrote that and published it in 2015. He wrote about human rights violations in Burundi, and did a case study in post-conflict reconciliation and transitional justice. I mean, there's a pattern of, during the time, I'm assuming when you were doing your PhD, that you published these articles.
Yes.
What, in general, like, what were your findings from the research you did, as far as, did you come up with any sort of solutions, or what was your ultimate findings from what you researched during that time?
Okay, thank you very much, Mo. Yes, there are some of the findings which I found in my research was that there were mass killings which took place in Burundi at different phases. For example, mass killings of 1960s, then the mass killings of 1972, where almost the entire country was forced to run away. And that's where we found some refugees, Burundian refugees of the time in Tanzania. And then there were other killings which took place in 1988. And there were other killings which took place in 1993, especially after the assassination of the first Hutu president. And then there were other killings which took place in 1995, especially when the university students at the University of Burundi were killed on the campus. And then there are other killings which followed afterwards. So one of my findings was that those mass killings indeed amount to genocide. And that's what I found, one of the findings. And when I found that, I made a proposition or a recommendation that they should establish a kind of Truth and Reconciliation Commission, maybe similar to what was established in South Africa. And that really happened after my graduation. And the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Burundi was established, and it came out with its finding in 2021, confirming what I found, that indeed the mass killings of Burundi amount
genocide.
to genocide.
And this would be a genocide of the Tutsis and the Twas?
All right. Thank you very much. Burundian case is so complicated. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was established, was to investigate the mass killings of 1972. And that's why some scholars also have got some issues with that, because it was kind of limited in terms of jurisdiction, because it didn't look into the other killings which were done in other phases. But I think they started with that of 1972 as a starting point. I'm not sure, it depends on the authorities, whether they are going to extend that to other killings.
And so, what what we see, obviously, in many countries, there's always, I guess, different types of reasons why people leave or migrate to other places. And you talk about in other research climate change and the impact of climate change on, migration flows, and human rights violations obviously causes it. And you've talked about you know the problems with violence against women. I mean, there's human, it's very complicated. Our world is complicated. Um, do you find that the migration flows from what you've been researching have been increasing as the decades have moved on across Africa?
Oh, yes, yes, Mo. There is no dispute about that. Forced migration is a major, major problem. I wish if you were at my talk this week. I had a talk at the law school at the University of Arizona, and that was my main topic or my focus, where I and my one of the host professors, we talked about forced migration, which is leading to refugee and asylum crisis in Africa, even beyond, even sometimes in other countries. Yeah, so forced migration is a major, major problem because it is what is causing these other issues which we are having. For example, what is currently happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo is worrying, and it has added more pain and suffering of Congolese, because Congolese people have been forced to run away again to other countries like Burundi, like Tanzania, like South Africa, like the United States of America.
Yep.
Yes,
And is
yeah,
that because of the M23 movement?
yeah, great.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Can you talk about? I think it's important for people to understand, if you can talk about the M23 movement and the recruitment of youth for these military offensives that are happening. A lot of people may not be aware of that. What exactly is that situation in the DRC?
Yeah, the situation of DRC is painful, and M23, that is a movement which started, I think, because of some people were not happy with not being included in the government. And also, that is based in the eastern part of the DRC. And also, if we go back to the history, you find out that there are a lot of things, because that part has got a kind of people who ran away from Rwanda and who have got Rwandese background. But now that part also is rich in minerals. And because of that, everyone wants those minerals. And M23 is supported by the current regime of Rwanda, has been committing gross violations of human rights in that particular region, because women are being raped, children are being forced to be child soldiers, and you can name it, things which really are not pleasing. So yes, M23, yes, there are evidence which suggests that M23 has been supported by the current regime of Rwanda, and they have been causing atrocities in the eastern DRC. And what is even upsetting or depressing is the fact that these warring parties do not want to come on a table, on negotiation table, so that they can end ceasefires. The government of Congo, of course, has been at the beginning didn't want to come on table, but later on there was a time the government of Congo wanted to come on table and negotiate so that they can be ceasefire. But also remember, it's so complicated because this issue of M23 has caused atrocities not only to the DRC alone or DRC citizens alone, even other people or other citizens of other countries have been killed in the DRC Congo. For example, there are South African soldiers who were deployed there, who were killed there. There are also people from Tanzania who were killed in the DRC. There are people from Malawi who were killed in the DRC. So you can see is a kind of chain which is causing a lot of suffering, not only to the DRC citizens only, but also to other people at large.
You know, I see as an immigration lawyer a lot of cases from that region where people are asking for asylum. And what I see happening in a lot of these cases is I'll have people who come in, they are individuals who fled after or during the genocide in 1994, I think it was, in the DRC, and went to Rwanda and have been living in Rwanda, and they're Banyamulenge. And then they start having problems in Rwanda, and the Rwandan government is trying to help to recruit them and get them to provide support to the M23 movement, and try to get them to recruit other Banyamulenge youth. And then they, for one way or another, they end up in the United States. Some of them will get visas and they'll get here. Some of them will get, some way to get to the border and then request asylum because they are legitimately fearful of staying there because they've either been beaten or arrested or been issued summons, and they're getting questioned by the RPF, the ruling party in Rwanda, or the RIB, the investigative unit. My question to you is, I noticed that many of these cases, when people ask for asylum, they come with limited documents, which a lot of times asylees will come to the country they're fleeing to with not a lot of evidence because they don't have a lot of it. And then our system in the United States will ask them, oh, well, provide corroboration, provide some sort of evidence, because, there are country reports, there are human rights reports, there are articles, but they want to see something more specific to their own asylum claim. And many of these cases then get referred to, either if they are filed through the U.S. Asylum offices, they get referred to a judge, or they're already in front of an immigration judge. And what I've been seeing consistently, at least over the last few years, is that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement attorneys will question and cast doubt on a lot of the evidence they provide. So, like, even if they get a sworn statement, and they get a sworn statement from somebody who had firsthand knowledge of their claim, and that sworn statement, that affidavit, was taken by a barrister in Kigali, for example, that lays everything out, and it's got a notarization stamp, they'll come in and they'll do a forensics investigation on those documents. In some cases, they'll even go to that extent to cast doubt on their claim. In your opinion, do you think there is a lot of rampant fraud that goes on with these types of claims? Or do you think that, based off your research, that these people actually do have legitimate claims? And I'm not speaking in specifics, but more in general. It just seems like we'll get a letter from a hospital, and the hospital will provide a letter, and it'll have a notary stamp on it, and sometimes there'll be mistakes in the letter, and God forbid there's like a typographical error or some sort of mistake. All of a sudden, ICE is doubting the legitimacy of that letter. What have you seen? I mean, the systems are different there. What sort of thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question, Mo. For that is so complicated because the issue of Banyamulenge is critical, and that's why if it is not resolved, it will bring more issues or more problems. Yes, on the issue of documentation, is difficult to sometimes get legitimate documents. Why? You can imagine someone is running away for his or for their lives. It is difficult for them to get proper documents. What they want is just to get away from that place and be in a safe environment. And also is not even about Banyamulenge only. There are also other Congolese citizens who are in the same situation. So if we really want to dig deeper and look at the root cause of the problem, we need to look at the problem in a holistic way. So it's so unfortunate for Banyamulenge to be targeted by the Rwandese regime. But I think sometimes, somewhere, they are being used as a scapegoat because they just remember they are being recruited in the M23, backed with the Rwandese regime, so that they can be able to show the whole world or the international community that, look, we are here to help Banyamulenge because our people are being killed here, are being targeted, and we just want to rescue them, which is not, in my humble opinion, it is not the case. Is not about helping them, but is even victimizing them, because they become a target not only for the M23, even the Congolese army, because the Congolese army, they say, oh, look, you are the ones who are being supported by your people from Rwanda. But in essence is not the case. So there are few, in my humble opinion, I can say, is a question of few individuals who, yes, is not about generalization. So now coming back to asylum claims in the US, yes, I believe every case can be decided based on its own merit. There are even sometimes maybe as an immigration lawyer who have been dealing with these immigration cases, you can be able to tell or to speculate that this is a genuine claim or this is not a genuine claim based on your investigation. And just sweeping under the carpet that, okay, this is not the genuine claim or this, and then you say, no, we don't want to approve the asylum. I think the US should maybe do more to investigate.
It just seems like there's so much doubt casted on a lot of these claims to the point where it makes it very difficult for people to get asylum, especially in this time.
Yes, in this time, yes, it can be difficult. I can give you an example of a case in South Africa. It is a well-known case which set precedent on the principle of no refoulement. This is a Ruta versus a Minister of Home Affairs case, which was decided by the Constitutional Court of South Africa. In this case, it was a Rwandese asylum seeker who entered South Africa illegally. And he stayed in South Africa for more than a year, maybe almost 15 months. And unfortunately, he violated the traffic rules. So he was arrested for violating the
what sort of traffic rule? He was speeding?
I think so. I think he was speeding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, something like that. Yeah. So it was until after being arrested where they found out that, oh, he didn't have documents. He was undocumented. And that's when he said he was originally from Rwanda. And now immediately the authorities wanted to deport him in terms of the Immigration Act. But he challenged that deportation by saying that, yes, he's undocumented, but he was in the process of applying for an asylum. And the court had to decide whether this kind of asylum application could be granted or could be successful based on the fact that this is an illegal person. He entered the country illegally, and he didn't have documents, and he didn't even bother to apply for asylum when he entered South Africa. But to your surprise, the Constitutional Court said, yeah, you know what? The principle of no refoulement applies to those who are still applying for asylum and those who have already been granted asylum. So I'm bringing in this case maybe to see whether in the US also sometimes that can be taken into consideration.
Gotcha. What what is the general, like, from what you've witnessed or read about, what is the view of the United States as a beacon of hope or light? Like, is that something that, people in Africa look at the United States as traditionally? Um, have you seen that type of viewpoint diminish at all? Or because it does seem like people still are doing whatever they can to get to the United States to seek a place of refuge.
Oh, thank you very much for your question. Yes, of course. The US, for most of Africans, see US as kind of semi-heaven. From the, I don't want to take you to the religion, but they see the US as a country of hope, a country where someone can succeed in life. And for people who are coming from the war-torn countries like the DRC, like Burundi, like Rwanda, for them, they see that, okay, should I be able to get to the US, I think I'm going to make it. And also, even for me as an academic, I think that's what brought me here, because I saw how the refugee and immigration laws in Africa, using South Africa as an example, are becoming more stringent. And being someone who has been doing research in refugee law, when the opportunity came, when I was applying for my Fulbright scholarship, I thought, let me try to go to the US and learn how the US refugee and immigration laws and policy are, to see what I can learn, or what Africa as a developing continent can learn from developed countries like the US in terms of handling refugees and asylum claims. Yeah, so based on that, I think that was my motivation. I'm still learning here, and after arriving here, there are things which really I admire about the US, which are completely different from what we have in Africa, specifically in South Africa, but also with other African countries. For example, here, once an asylum application has been successful, it's easy for an asylum seeker or a refugee to be integrated, meaning they can have access to basic rights which the US citizens are entitled to, something which is not really happening much in Africa. So that is one thing I would love to commend the US for.
And the interesting thing is, a lot of people here may actually have a differing opinion, thinking that the integration isn't as good. So it's an interesting perspective that you bring, because, I think there are some, positives and obviously, difficulties, especially coming from a completely different culture and, society.
Yes, you are right.
What
yes.
other ways do you see the United States asylum system better than maybe what you see over in Africa?
For example, the time limit, please help me here because
Sure.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
The time it takes to for an asylum application to be
Filed. Yeah. So there's
to be
what's called
filed.
you have a 1 year filing deadline. So
Okay.
once you get to the United States, you have to file within 1 year. If you don't, you will be ineligible unless you meet an exception.
You see, that is great. In South Africa, it used to be 3 months, okay, in terms of the Refugees Act. But there are recent amendments to the Refugees Act, which has taken away that 3 months to 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you and you're talking about somebody who gets to the country who
Mm-hmm.
has no knowledge of the laws,
Mm-hmm.
who, doesn't have any support probably, and
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to do the filing or request for
Mm-hmm.
asylum within 10 days of
Yes.
entering that country. So,
Yes. Yes.
wow.
So you can see the difference.
Yeah.
In the US, 1 year. In South Africa, 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is something
That's
to learn. Yeah.
yeah. So significant differences, and I think that it's helpful because if the more time you have, the better as far as being able to, and as you talked about, some integration into a completely different legal system, a different society, not knowing what needs to be done. I mean, not speaking the language in some cases. I mean, there are a lot of variables that a person who is coming to a new country have to overcome. Not to mention that I'm sure many of these asylees are, and I know, are dealing with post-traumatic stress.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Another thing which I am learning here in the US is the fact that you have got a lot of people who get involved into the asylum related matters, and not only the immigration lawyers like you, but also other people. For example, here I'm speaking to you. I am at the Iskashita's office. I was so fortunate to get to know this NGO, and I'm learning a lot from them. By the way, today we have fair and plant cell and fruit cells, so that's why I'm here. So, according to what I learned here, this NGO helps refugees or asylees to maybe to get some documents or to get some lawyers who are going to represent them, something which we don't have in Africa. And also, I heard about the programs you mentioned about language. Yes, people come here, they have no clue, they don't know English, even a single word. But here there are programs which help them to learn the language, and eventually they can be able to communicate. In South Africa, we don't have that. Or in Africa, we don't have that. So you can see now the positive aspect. Although, yes, you did mention about other perspectives. I don't want to to talk much about that. I'm just talking about what I have observed so
Observed,
far.
yeah.
Yes. But also maybe one negative aspect which I can pick up from the US compared to what Africa has, especially countries like Tanzania, which have hosted a large number of refugees is the approach. For example, in Tanzania, when they saw that there were a lot of refugees coming from different countries and in a massive way, they granted what we call mass asylum or to the refugee. I mean, you take a group, let's say you are taking a group of Burundian refugees, you give them mass asylum.
What does that mean? It's just when they get mass asylum, does that mean they can live in that country indefinitely?
Okay, is stage by stage. I'm going to use 3 examples. I will use Rwandese refugees and Burundian refugees and Somali refugees in Tanzania. Those refugees who came to Burundi long time ago in 1970s, 1960s, 1980s, they were given mass asylum. They were allowed to live in Tanzania legally as refugees, although they were in Tanzania, they live in refugee camps. And later on, they were given mass naturalization. Now they are Tanzanian citizens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me also ask you, the State Department, the U.S. State Department announced last month at the end of March that they were going to officially shutter the United States Agency for International Development. In your basic knowledge, what sort of impact has this agency had on the African countries over the past, decades? Like, has it been beneficial to helping these other African countries, and what sort of impact is the shuttering of it going to have on the potential of more migrant flows and refugees because of the limited resources that will be coming from the United States?
Yes, thank you so much. On this aspect, I don't have much knowledge, but I can just give my own personal opinion about that. Yes, cutting down the USAID in Africa is really a problem which is going to affect some people and might also end up causing people to migrate because of the limited
development
resources. Yeah. However, also maybe what was not done well before in terms of the USAID was not to have proper mechanism to proper monitoring mechanisms, because there are some allegations, but I don't have evidence for that. Please.
Yeah. No, I get it. Of misuse of the money that,
Yes.
Of course. I mean, that is the reason why the Trump administration is doing this. At least that's the reason they're providing. But,
there was a misuse of that money. There is no doubt about that.
Okay.
Whereby the intended recipients of that money didn't not receive the money, where the money ended up into some few individuals' pockets instead of benefiting those people whom.
So it's a matter of accountability.
Yeah, there was no accountability in that.
Got it.
And because of that, now that's why some African countries are saying, oh, it's better now the Africans need to wake up so that they can be self dependent, and they do not always have to rely on foreign aids. So I think if there was a kind of accountability, that would have helped a lot. But the fact remains that is going to affect many people, and you won't be surprised to have many asylees coming to the US.
It's going to be more.
Yes, gonna be
and
more. So you
yeah,
must be ready for that.
it's the consequences.
Mm.
So what is next for you? Are you staying for a while at the University of Arizona, or do you know what your next move is?
Yeah, thank you very much. I was given a visa to be in the United States until the mid of September. Meaning by mid of September, I need to be out of the States. However, there are also some challenges because our program, our Fulbright program also, somehow, somewhere have been affected. Like March, it was difficult for many Fulbright scholars, the students, and visiting researchers also to get their stipend. In my case, really, I don't want to lie. Mine was according to our agreement. Mine is supposed to be given in 3 phases.
Oh, I see.
So my first phase, I got it. So until now, I'm still covered until May, but I'm not sure what will happen after May because because even the coordinators,
Yeah.
whom we normally communicate with them, like the one I used to communicate with when I was still in South Africa. Now, wherever I send emails, she's no longer there, no longer available. But we were notified that some staff members in the program, their contracts were terminated.
Yeah. Well, that's so typical. Bureaucracy, dealing with government, that these things just come up all the time. It's very frustrating because you have to have contact with somebody. You lose contact and then messes everything up.
Yes.
And so how have you found, when did you arrive in the U.S.? Was it last year, the first semester of this year, or was it in 2025 or before?
I arrived in the US on 2nd of February 2025. And of course, you asked me about what is next. Of course, based on my plans was to be here until the end of my program in mid of September. I'm still hoping that I'll continue to be in the state until mid of September. And then afterwards, I would have loved to have more collaboration because it doesn't really mean anything if I can come here and then afterwards I just go and I leave everything. So if there could be some sort of collaboration with my host institution or even with other people, as well as communities will be great, because learning something like from Ishkasita is something I wish can be also extended to other countries like South
I
Africa.
see.
And also these interventions which you have, like these teaching language programs to the asylum seekers, is vital, because sometimes that is what is causing what we have in South Africa, the xenophobic attacks.
Gotcha. Is there anything else? I know we covered a lot of subject matter. I mean, I had other questions, but we don't want to go too long. Is there anything else that you would like to mention or add to what you've already said?
You mean about my research?
Just in general, like, about, your time in the US, your research or anything.
Yes. I would like to mention that forced migration, which is causing a lot of issues, using Africa as an example, it doesn't only affect Africans. It affects also other people beyond Africa, like the US, for example. That's why you have asylum seekers and refugees in the US. So
Yeah.
I would love to have meaningful conversation about the root cause of forced migration, which is causing all of these things. Because I believe that no one really who deserved to be in the situation of being a refugee is not something which people really desire. I think like someone being forced to leave their countries, leave everything. You leave your house, you leave your farms,
You
you
give up
leave
your
your job.
entire existence.
It is tiring. It is exhausting. And also the trauma which people go through. Like imagine a child who was born in the DRC Congo, the eastern part, which we are talking about, hearing gunshots, running away, sleeping in the bush all the time. You can imagine, even if that child grows up,
Yeah.
what kind of a person that child is gonna be. So those are the
There's no
kind.
cultivation whatsoever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of issues which we need to work together collaboratively, so that we can really try to find a common ground on how we can solve these problems. I would love to come to the US as a visiting research scholar, not as a refugee. You see?
Yeah.
Yes. Likewise, I would like to say, oh, Mo, are you interested to come to Africa? Come, so that we can learn from one another.
Exactly. And collaborate.
Collaborate. But it's so sad today. Actually, now I was reading an article. It's so sad, which talks about an American pastor who have been abducted in South Africa. And it happens in Port Elizabeth, and I know the place where it happens. So you wouldn't want to wish things like this to happen. So that's why I say, let us work together, collaborate, so that we can find.
Build bridges.
Yes.
not walls.
Yeah,
I mean,
not
that's,
walls.
the moral of the story is we should be building bridges with other nations, with other religions, with other people, because the more that we do that and the more that we can educate one another about our differences and our similarities, the better it is for humanity in general. And unfortunately, it does seem like that is something that continues to be a big problem, that people are not worldly, they're not getting out and, having a chance to educate themselves about what's going on the other side of the planet.
Yes, very true. And that's why everyone needs to get involved, whether lawyers, whether academics, whether is civil society, whether religious people. We need each other in this battle.
Well,
I don't know
yeah,
what is your take on forced migration as an immigration lawyer.
my take is that unfortunately, forced migration is going to occur. We'll see it, unfortunately, to the end of time. But we, as good people, have to accept the stranger and love thy stranger, and those are tenets that I think the mass majority of people are educated about, whether it's through religion or through their just, moral, the just basic morality. And it's terrible to see forced migration occur, whether it be through oppressive governments or through the, changes in our climate, economic reasons. But the reality is, we can't be closing our doors to other people.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for asking me. And thank you so much. Again, I'm very grateful for you joining me. I do want to note that I did misspeak earlier, because I said your name or my name shows up twice in your name. It only shows up one time, the last two letters, M-O.
Yeah.
So Professor Leah Ndimurwimo, thank you so much for joining me. I think, hearing from your background and wealth of knowledge is important to the listeners of this podcast. And I hope you're able to stay here longer and continue with your research at the University of Arizona. And just thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, it is my pleasure, Mo. Thank you so much for inviting me. And for the 2 months I have been in Arizona, I feel like I'm an Arizonian. That's why you see.
This is your home.
Yeah, this is my home. Please, as you said, open doors for me. I'm here. Yeah, yes, I might be coming from Africa, but I feel like even in Arizona, I belong here. The way I would have loved also to invite you to Africa,
To
so that you
Africa.
can feel that way.
You do
Thank you so
belong.
much. I really appreciate it.
And thank you to my daughter, Emma, who is the producer of my podcast, Immigration Ain't Easy.
Oh.
So, yep, she does that. Well, have a great rest of the day. I hope the event goes well at Iskashita. And I also want to give a shout out to Iskashita, a wonderful organization in Tucson that helps refugees. And Barbara Eisworth, she, her name keeps coming up on my podcast, and she is a person who we all appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. Please send my regards to your daughter and tell her that she's doing great job, and she must keep it up.
I will do so.